firmware 3.02 for the Axe FX3. If you watch my video on the beta release, you would already know that there is a complete overhaul of the drive block as well as a bunch of new drive models, which is pretty awesome. There is also an updated user interface on the physical unit for the drive block and for the amp block, which we'll have a look at, as well as having a listen to the brand new drives and some drives that were already in there through a tube amp. Furthermore, Axe Edit has been updated so that you can edit all the functions and features of the FC controllers directly from Axe Edit. We'll have a look at that in a second as well. Let's have a look at all this stuff that I've talked about, and of course you can go and grab the firmware from the Fractal website. I'd highly recommend it. The new drives sound amazing and the new features just, again, make everything even easier to use. So check it out and we'll have a look at some of the features. One user interface improvement is with the drive blocks. If you go to edit a drive block, you're confronted with your usual model selection. And if you page across, you now see that you get the authentic controls for the drive pedal. In the case of the Blues OD, it's just got drive, tone, and level. But if I selected something like the Black Glass 7K, I've got drive, level, mix, 3-band EQ, and a middle frequency control. All the usual controls are still included. They haven't taken anything away. It's just simply something which makes the user interface easier to use. For example, if I selected a tube screamer from over here and I scroll across, I get the real controls that a real tube screamer has, which is awesome. Furthermore, if we go to the advanced section, we have this new diode selection menu, which is really, really interesting. This can let you totally customize your drive pedal. So you can select between different diode types. You can go online and research what era tube screamer uses which diode, or select 2 diodes on one and one on the other for asymmetrical clipping. And you've also got a new dry level control, which is pretty cool. You can now adjust it from 100 to 200%. So lots of really sweet little tweaks to the drive block. We can access another new feature, this time in the amp block, by going to Setup, Global Settings, and choosing between Authentic and Ideal for the amp controls. When you select Authentic, the amp block is just going to display the real-world controls on the amp. So if I do that and I go to my amp block, say in this case the USA Clean, this has drive, input trim, presence, bass, middle, treble, master volume, and level. Whereas if I selected something like, say, let's go to the Superverb Vibrato, this has fewer controls. Another good one that I always like to test is the Tweed Deluxe. So we scroll across and we'll go to Deluxe Tweed. This real world amp only has a few controls, and as you can see there, it's got drive, tone, and level, as well as the input trim control. If you don't like this, if you want to go back to, I guess, the way the Axe FX has worked in the past, you just go back to your global settings and set it to ideal. For example, if I go back now to the layout and go to our amp block, which was a Tweed Deluxe, you can see now I've got far more advanced controls. So depending on what type of player you like, if you want the authentic controls, you can have them set like that, or if you're a tweaker and want to go deep, you can set it to ideal, and it's business as usual. Axe Edit has also been updated with a few cool new features. In the drive block, we have access to the advanced features with the diode types, which is super cool. But most importantly, and this is a thing that I think a lot of us have been waiting for, is we can now edit the FC series controllers from Axe Edit. So hopefully you can see Axe Edit on the screen as well as my FC6 down there. So I've got that connected, and we can go through each layout. As you can see here, we've got the layouts menu. I can select between the different default layouts that I've got, some of which I've tweaked a little bit. I'm using this Mark IV preset, and for example, let's say we wanted to tweak the effects layout, which is number 3. So what I'll do is I will select this preset on the FC, and I'll go to the master layout menu, and I'll go to effects 1. So you can see there on the FC, it's mirroring what is happening in Axe Edit. For example, there's a few really simple things that I can do. Say I wanted to change the color of drive 1 from red to green. There we go. Really, really easy. So you can do stuff like that. I can go down here and say the category. Say I don't want this to be a drive. I can have it as a looper or a layout or a utility or any of these things. I can change the hold function as well really, really easily. And I also have access to the per preset override. So say this drive block here in this particular preset, if I wanted it to be something else, only in this preset. Every other preset I've got, I want this particular FC foot switch to be a drive block, except this one. I can set my per preset override, say to number 1, and then I could go into my per preset FC and I can change what
number one does. Say rather than a phaser, it might be a chorus or any effect really that I like. And you can see it's super easy to edit all your per preset assignments. Go over to the FC controllers, set per preset override if you want it. Different overrides, different definitions. You can also see all the overrides that you've got in one fell swoop. So this is really nice. I'm super stoked. They've done some great work with this. You can also link layouts between multiple FCs as well. I don't want this to be an override anymore. I want it to be my stock function. So that's super cool. It integrates really well with the FC controllers as well, which I'm super happy about. And you can also select between the FC6 and the FC12 to edit stuff. You can also show the LCDs here, or you can show the individual functions. For example, this drive block, you can see it's set to affect bypass, and the hold function is set to toggle the channels. Change the colors, totally customize all of this. Again, this just totally streamlines the process of editing the FC, and you don't need separate software, which is another thing that I really like.
A really good way to evaluate these drives is to try them in front of a tube amp. I've got my Marshall JTM 45 here. It is running into a Marshall 412 with greenbacks in the other room that I have mic'd with a Sennheiser E609. That's running into the mic pre of my Apollo Twin, and it's going straight into Pro Tools. I'm using a Les Paul with some Martin A. Smith humbuckers. We're going to hear the unaffected sound, and then I'm going to scroll through a few different drives. Labels will be on the screen. Enjoy.